Hi, my name is Avery Chen, and I'm a volunteer with Actera. Thank you so much for joining us in this Action Breakout session with Dana Gunders. Dana is an executive director of ReFed, a nonprofit focused on advancing solutions to U.S. food waste. Deemed the woman who helped start the Waste Free movement by Consumer Reports, Dana is a national expert and one of the first to bring light to just how much food is wasted across the country through her 2012 report, Wasted: How America is Losing Up to 40% of its food from farm to fork to landfill. Some of her career highlights include authoring Waste Free Kitchen Handbook, launching the Save the Food campaign, testifying in Congress, and appearing on John Oliver. Please join me in welcoming Dana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Gunders. I'm the executive director at ReFed. We are an organization entirely focused on reducing food loss and waste throughout the U.S. And I'm thrilled to be speaking with you about that today. So let's talk about solving the problem of food waste and what you can do about it. First of all, what is the problem? At the biggest level, we are looking ahead at a future where we will need, it's predicted, about 50% more food today, more food in 2050 than we have today. At the same time, due to the impacts of climate change, agricultural productivity is already decreasing. So the question is, where will that food come from? And part of the solution is using the food that we already grow and produce. We estimate that about 24% of all of the future food needs could be met by simply just using the food we grow better and closing up that gap between what we produce and what we actually consume, and really streamlining the food system to do that. Around the world, about 1/3 of all the food produced goes uneaten. That's $1 trillion worth of food. And estimates show that its footprint is about 8% of all the greenhouse gases in the entire planet. Said another way, if food loss and waste globally were a country, it would actually rank third after the US and China in terms of its greenhouse gas footprint. Here in the US, about 35% of all food goes unsold or uneaten. It's a huge amount, and most of that is going straight to the dumpster. In value, it's about $408 billion worth of food that we don't eat, and only a very small fraction of that is being donated. A little bit more is being recycled, but again, most of it is going straight to landfills, where it produces methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. This is a shame for all the resources that go in, but also it's happening alongside the huge food insecurity problem right here in the US. 1 in 8 Americans are food insecure today. When you consider everything it takes to grow, transport, store, cool, cook, and serve food, it has a huge impact. We estimate in the US it to be about 4% of US greenhouse gas emissions. That's equivalent to about 58 million cars worth. 14% of all fresh water, that's more water than California and Texas use combined. 18% of all cropland, and 24% of landfill inputs. So to add insult to injury, food is actually the number one product entering our landfills today. Now, where is it happening? Pretty much everywhere. It starts on the farm, where more than half of the food that is left behind is actually edible. It happens in manufacturing. It happens in grocery stores and on restaurants. In fact, in restaurants, about 70% of the waste is in food that's already served on your plate. It's those fries that you don't eat, the potatoes on the breakfast platter, the half sandwich that you're too full but don't feel like taking home. That's actually a huge contributor. And then the largest contributor is actually us in our homes, all 330 million of us cleaning out our fridges, scraping our plates, and not really taking care to manage our food closely. Now, there's a little bit of good news, and that is that our analysis shows that over the years, food waste has increased, but it actually started to level off right around 2016. And when you look at that And on a per capita basis, what it actually means is that there's been a 2% decrease in the amount of surplus food um, and food that is going straight to landfills. Now, all of this has led the international community, the UN, and also the US to adopt a goal to cut food loss and waste in half by 50% by the year 2030. And we're super excited that the US government has gotten on board to do this. However, you look at that 2% number, we actually still have a long way to go. So at ReFed, we conducted an analysis to figure out how could we possibly get there, or can we even make that goal? And what we found out is that yes, it is possible to reduce our food loss and waste in half, but it is going to take a huge amount of effort and financing to do it. That we analyzed about 40 different solutions to food waste. We found that it would take $14 billion in investment, but that would have a $73 billion return. In addition, it has the potential to save 4 trillion gallons of water, 75 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. That's the equivalent of taking about 16 million cars off the road, as well as provide 4 billion meals for those in need and 51,000 new jobs. We would love your help in doing this. In fact, we can only do this if we have all hands on deck. You can really explore our solutions and our analysis, understand the problem in our ReFed Insights engine. You can find that at www.refed.org. And this will allow you, whether you are part of the retail industry or the restaurant industry or another business or government, you can find yourself, you can look up the solutions that really speak to you. What else can you do? Even just in your homes, consumers are a huge part of this problem. So starting at your home is important. And oops, I went ahead a slide there. So the first is to really kind of think about food similar to the way we think about the reduce, reuse, recycle mantra. And that is that not having extra food in the first place is the best thing you can do. It certainly has the best bang for buck from an environmental perspective. Not producing food going to waste in the first place is about 8 times as effective from a climate perspective as composting it, to give you a sense. So keep that in mind as you're going about your day. Secondly, make sure to focus on your high resource products first. When you throw out a hamburger, that is the equivalent of taking a 90-minute shower in terms of the water it took to produce that hamburger. Whereas a pound of tomatoes, as you can see on this slide, is only about 5 minutes. Lastly, we are all part of this problem. One of my favorite statistics is that 75% of Americans say they waste less than the average American. And that really goes to show that we don't see it in ourselves. But it happens in little bits, day by day. And the more we pay attention to it, the better armed we are to really take it on. In your community, you can promote things like consumer education campaigns, getting businesses to really commit to the issue, trying to work with food rescue organizations and see if they need help or if businesses need help finding places where they can donate their food. Encouraging your local government to set goals around this issue is a great way to establish it as a focus. And then certainly where there's not composting infrastructure, though it's not the highest of that hierarchy, there will always be bones and peels, and we need ways to recycle that rather than sending it to landfill. Now, in your home, in your daily life, this is what we call the food waste 5, just things to think about as you go about managing your own food. You can be planning your meals. I know plan is kind of a 4-letter word in our society these days, but it's one of the most effective ways to reduce the amount of food going to waste. If you can create that plan, create the shopping list that goes with it, and try to stick to that. Storing food properly is critical. It helps buy you time to use it for longer. Learning your labels, those use by, best by, sell by dates that you see on food. they don't actually mean that the food is going bad, and they are not telling you to throw it out. They really are just an indicator of the food being at its best quality. But almost all food can be consumed after that date. If it looks fine, smells fine, tastes fine, it's usually consumable. Fourth, freeze, freeze, freeze. Your freezer it's like a magic pause button for your food. And almost anything can be frozen. Pasta sauce, beans, milk, cheese, eggs. If you crack them out of their shell and scramble them, but don't cook them. So just kind of explore what can be frozen and just think of it as a place sometimes to just store leftovers for a few days. Things don't have to go in there for months. And lastly, eat down what you have. Sometimes we talk about this as shopping your fridge before you shop the store. Some people like to practice waste less Wednesdays or stir Fridays, but kind of a day to really eat up what you have before you go restock to make sure you don't find those things later in a less appealing state. There's a ton more that you can do, but thank you so much for listening today. Please stay connected. On the screen are some ways that you can find Refed, and we have all sorts of programming. We have a food waste action network for those who really want to get engaged, and I hope you will join us in the fight and become a food waste warrior along with us. Thank you so much.